Arshad, can I have a quick yes in the chat if my voice is clear?
Yes.
All right, super. So hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Fani Bhagwan and I'm from Secunderabad Toastmasters District 98. And it feels really good to be here because this is like a virtual homecoming for me, because I started my Toastmasters journey with DXC Toastmasters Club, erstwhile CSC Toastmasters Club Chennai, and feels really nice to be back here. All right, so in the session today for the next 40 minutes, we will gain a better understanding on two different dimensions. One is how do we craft a humorous speech, number one. Number two is how do we understand different dynamics of humor and how these dynamics of humor play their part in our humorous speech contest in Toastmasters. All right. And before I begin the session, let me ask you a pertinent question. What is your typical pain point when it comes to humorous speeches in Toastmasters? I repeat my question. What is your typical pain point when it comes to humorous speeches in Toastmasters? Answers in the chat box. What troubles you the most when it comes to humorous speeches in Toastmasters is the question. How much humor? Okay, choosing the topic. All right, plot. We make sure that everyone, how do you make sure that everyone is laughing? Okay, to understand whether the humor I say would be humorous to others. All right, judging the pulse of the audience, how to create humor, delivering the punch, trouble inculcating value or message. All right, the impression of the audience. All right. Now here's my second question to you. Before you take a stage, like before you take the stage to deliver your humorous speech, for how many of you have these thoughts running in your mind? What would people think of me if I make a mistake? What if I goof up things on stage? What if people don't laugh at my jokes? What if I miss out on something huge in my speech? For how many of you these thoughts constantly run in your mind? Give me a quick yes in the chat. All right, super. So yes, we will break this myth today because all these thoughts are nothing but a play of your imagination. And most of the times, your imagination is more dangerous than reality, right? So in the session today, we will primarily get started with what is humor, and then try to understand what is this all about humorous speech in a typical Toastmasters contest, right? Now, can someone tell me what do you think is humor? Anyone? You can unmute your microphone and share your perspective, or you can also put your answers in the chat box. What do you think is humor? Anyone?
Making someone laugh.
Okay, you make someone laugh, all right.
The juxtaposition of two logics.
It's a juxtaposition of two different logics. Super. Any other perspective? And I like the word logic in the answer. Sudden twist towards the end, all right. Any other perspective? What do you think is humor?
Convey something serious in a very light way.
Okay, how do you convey something serious in a light way? All right. Okay. So humor is nothing but reality. Humor is nothing but logic, right? So when you slowly move away, or when you slowly violate your ideal zone of thinking, humor takes its form. I repeat again, when you slowly move away from your ideal zone of thinking, humor takes its form. Let's try to understand how do we generate humor by default, right? Now, when I was studying my 5th class, there was one day where our physical education trainer suddenly entered a class and then made a huge announcement. He said, boys and girls, this Saturday, we are going to have a kiss competition. And then he left the classroom. He said, kiss competition in a classroom, and then he left. Now, if you were in that classroom, what do you think some of the ideal reactions could be from the students? Answers in the chat. Ideal reactions. If you were in the classroom and you get to hear something like a kiss competition on a Saturday, what do you think could be some of the most ideal reactions? You can post your answers in the chat. Okay, you start choosing, okay, laughter, getting ready for the competition, wow, quiz, laughing and all of that. Okay, now stop. Now start thinking of something that could not have ideally happened. Now think of not so ideal reactions. What could have happened if you get to hear someone saying, kiss competition on a Saturday. Now there are no gates. It's all open for you in the mind. Now, what else could have happened? Think wild now. Don't go by ideal zone of thinking. Think wild. Who to kiss? Okay, good question. Propose to one. All right. Any other perspective? You'll start thanking God. Okay.
Immediate practice.
You will ask for a demo session. Superb. You will ask for an immediate practice of sorts. Very nice. Brush on that day. You make sure. Okay. You brush on that day. All right. Practice. All right. Now have a look at these chain of thoughts. Initially, when we were asked to think in an ideal zone, as in when we were asked to limit our thoughts to an ideal zone, we've had typical reactions like maybe laughter, surprise, shock, bemuse, blah, blah, blah. But the moment we stopped there and we slowly moved away from this ideal zone of thinking and started to think about what cannot ideally happen, then that basically gave rise to answers like instant proposal, practice kiss competition, brushing, who to kiss, start choosing your partner, propose to one. So this is where humor took its form, right? So that establishes a very first fact that humor is reality. And when we slowly move away from our ideal zone of thinking, humor takes its form, right? So can I have a quick smiley in the chat if the definition of what humor is all about is clear to you? Humor is not rocket science. Humor is reality. Humor is reality and logic with a little curlicue to its end, right? All right, now that we understand what is humor, let's understand how do we understand humor in a typical Toastmasters space or ecosystem, right? Now, when it comes to Toastmasters humorous speech contest, we need to understand that this humorous speech contest is not about exhibiting random jokes or exhibiting comedy, right? So end of day, it's a speech, right? So you've got to pass on some important information to the audience using humor as a weapon. I repeat again, humorous speech contest in Toastmasters is all about how do you pass on information using humor as a weapon. Now, the message that you drive to your audience need not be highly preachy. You need not motivate people too much. You need not make people get up from their chairs, go and do something great in life. No. Right? Your messages can be very simple, very straightforward, quite informative, but you make them more effective or you make them more impactful by using humor as a weapon, as simple as that, right? But it is never a random exhibition of jokes. So that's the definition of what is humorous speech in a typical Toastmasters ecosystem. All right, can we have quick smileys if the definition of what is humor in the TM parlance is clear to all of you, so that we'll get started with understanding the dynamics of humor. All right. So there are three different categories of humor, I would say three dimensions of humor that most of the Toastmaster speakers put to practice, right? So we have punchlines. You would have heard of punchlines. You would have heard of in quotations, you would have heard of context-driven fun, right? Now, the significant part is context-driven fun. Now, what is this context-driven fun all about? So let's try to understand this. When I was in my 7th grade, I watched a movie. It's a romantic movie. I watched a movie, and one typical dialogue in the movie struck my mind. And the dialogue was, "No words can express my feelings for you. No words can express my feelings for you." So I loved the movie and I switched off my television. And somehow that dialogue kept striking my mind again and again, again and again, again and again. The very next day, we've had a classroom session by our principal madam on the topic success in life. Right? Now, towards the fag end of the session, they handed us feedback sheets to give feedback of how the madam took the session. So I thought of writing something creative. I thought of bringing my creative aspect to that picture there. So I thought of using that dialogue. No words can express my feelings on this session. So I wanted to write something like that. But when I started to think about the exact line, it didn't strike my mind exactly. It didn't strike my mind as is. So I thought about it, I thought about it, but somehow I could not pick up the entire dialogue. And I ended up writing, "I have feelings for you." I ended up writing, "I have feelings for you." Now, obviously the feedback sheet went to the principal. Now she read the feedback and then she called me And unfortunately, my dad was working as a lecturer in the same college. So she called my dad and me, and I leave it to you to imagine what happened next, right? Now, in this particular scenario, this is a context. This is a context of a small incident happened in a classroom, right? And we have tried to add humor elements to this context only, right? So now this is called context-driven fun, right? So typically in a Toastmasters humorous speech contest, we need to follow a context-driven fun method. Again, it's not about exhibiting random jokes. You need to fix on a context first. It can be anything. It cannot be school. It can be your life. It can be your marriage. It can be your office. It can be your boss. It can be anything, but a context for sure, right? And in this context, how do you bring in different elements of humor is $1 million question, right? But this is what you need to understand, that context-driven fun is all about how do you drive your humorous speeches impactfully in front of a large audience. So that's one. Second is obviously punchlines. Can someone tell me what is a punchline? Any random guess of what do you think is a punchline? Anyone? Answers in the chat, or you can also unmute your microphone and share your perspective. Okay, we have answers coming in the chat. Yeah.
Punchline is a payoff line. Punchline is called as a payoff line. Directly it goes to the subconscious mind.
Punchline directly goes to subconscious mind. Brilliant. Superb. Any other perspective? When Rajnikant speaks is what Aditya says. Yeah.
Short and sweet with which reflects our attitude.
Very nice. Short and sweet, which reflects our attitude. Very nice. It's a height of communication. All right. So punchline covering the entire situation in a sentence. Very nice. So punctuation is anything that is serious to a certain extent and suddenly cracks into a joke. I repeat again, anything that is serious till a certain point in time and then suddenly cracks into a joke. So this suddenness should bring in humor. That's the power of punchline. So punchline is a payoff line, as someone said, yes. So punchline is all about the suddenness of your movement from level 1 to level 2. Serious, suddenness, and a joke, right? So let's take an example to understand what are these punchlines. You would have heard Toastmasters humorous speakers using these punchlines extensively in their speeches, right? So let's take an example. How many of you hate your managers? Give me a quick yes in the chat. Hate your bosses. You don't like your boss for some reason. A quick yes or a smiley in the chat if you hate your bosses. Okay. Or how many of you have worked with weird bosses? Bosses who trouble you the most with their antics. Okay. Yeah. So my manager in my previous organization had a disease. Right? The disease is he thinks he's humorous, and he forces us to laugh at his crap jokes. Right. So one day he called 9 of our team members into his cabin because he wanted to crack a joke, and he obviously wanted us to laugh at it. But before I could tell you what the joke is all about, let me give you a little heads up. So there are 2 areas in Hyderabad. So one area is called Sainik Puri. I just typed the name in the chat. The other area is called Vayu Puri. Sainik Puri and Vayu Puri, right? Now he started his legendary joke this way. He said, once upon a time, a batch of military gang landed in Hyderabad. Military folks landed in Hyderabad in search of a place to live. Now, after an extensive search, they were able to finally find a place like a colony of sorts. And then they set up their houses. And when the time came for them to name the colony, they named it Sainik Puri because they're Sainiks, military folks. So they named it Sainik Puri. Now there's a colony called Sainik Puri in Hyderabad. 15 days later, a batch of Air Force gang landed in Hyderabad. Now they wanted a place to settle. After an extensive search, they find a colony. They set up their houses. And when the time came for them to name the colony, they named it Vayu Puri. Vayu means Air Force. So given that they're from Air Force background, they named it Vayu Puri. So Sainik Puri and Vayu Puri. 15 days later, the Navy guys have come in. Now they wanted a place to settle down. They've started their search for a colony of sorts. They've set up their houses. And when the time came for them to name their colony, they named it Pani Puri. And then he started laughing at the joke and obviously expected all of us to laugh at the joke. Now, 8 out of 9 people started laughing like crazy at that joke. Right? And they said, "Oh, you've got a brilliant sense of humor, sir. That was an exceedingly fantastic joke." And they started laughing like crazy, except one. Now the manager was taken aback. He looked at this guy and said, "Why are you not laughing at the joke?" He said, "I don't have to laugh at your crap joke because I submitted my resignation yesterday." Right? Now, so what happened here is, now if you look at this scenario, it was pretty serious till a certain point in time till the manager cracked the joke, till there's no reason why one person was not laughing at the joke, and then it suddenly cracked into a joke, right? So this is a punchline, as in it's serious till a certain point in time, and then suddenly cracks into a joke, right? So these are called punchlines, and you can also start using them in your speeches. How do you use them? We'll obviously discuss, but this is one component, key component in Toastmaster speeches. And then you would have also seen people using quotations, right? Now you pick any serious quotation, tweak it, and make it funny. As simple as that, right? Let's take an example. How many of you believe that behind every successful man, there is a woman? A quick yes in the chat. Okay, super. Now, if you really want to understand this on a much deeper note, or if you really want to convert this into a humorous quote, or if you really want to laugh at it, simply start questioning the quotation. Simply start questioning the quotation. Behind every successful man, there is a woman. Then behind every unsuccessful man, I leave it to you. Behind every successful man, there is a woman. Then who is behind every unsuccessful man? Think about it. Oh, that's humor. Right? There are two women, as what Satya says. Yeah, it can be one of the multiple options, but yes, yeah, right. So that way you pick any serious quotation and then tweak it to a certain extent to make it more funny, right? Now, this is the third component. So punchliners, quotations, and context-driven fun are the most used humor components in Toastmaster speeches. You would have seen many Toastmasters using them extensively in their Toastmaster speeches, right? How do we use them? We'll look into that aspect, but give me a quick smiley if the definition of what's a punchline, what's a quotation, what's context-driven fun is clear to all of you. Now, the key differentiator here is the context-driven fun. As I already told you, it's not a random exhibition of jokes or humor. It's about you building a context and then adding your humor elements to it. All right. Okay, super. Now, here's the deal. How do we write a humorous script? Now, this is something challenging, and we'll quickly look at it. How do we write a humorous speech script? Now, how many of you still have this question in mind? Should I start with a message or should I start with a story? Now, this is a common question for any of your Toastmaster speeches. Now, how many of you still have this question in mind? Every time you begin writing your speech, should you start with a message or should you start with a story? Give me a quick yes if you are, or if you find yourself in the state of confusion every time. All right, yeah, story. Right, very nice, sir. So ideally, again, the same question also relates to humorous speech contest here. Now, should you begin with a story? Should you begin with a message is always a question. Now, if you begin with a message, as in, let's say you want to seriously call out that honesty is the best policy. Just an example. You want to call out that honesty is the best policy. Now, if you start building your idea from a strong message, you will basically end up being a little serious in the end, because you're building on a message, right? But if you start with a story, now, the moment you begin to write your humorous speech script, have nothing in mind. Don't think about what do you want to drive to the audience. As simple as that. Now, first think of, is this context making you laugh? Is this context, or do you find this context funny? If you find that context funny, then slowly start building the story. Message can be tweaked later. Message can be brought in anytime. Message can be derived in any way. But if you start with a message, it becomes a little difficult for you to weave a beautiful story towards the end or bring in these humor elements towards the end. So typically for humorous speech contests, I personally believe that it's always good to start with a context. Now think of anything that made you laugh in the past. We'll obviously talk about where do we find humorous elements in life. We'll talk about that in the next slide, but yeah, start with a context and then think of With this context, what is that you want to drive to the audience? Is it a message? Is it some key information, or do you want to persuade them? That's all comes towards the fag end of your story. But don't go with a message in mind, because if you go with a message in mind, you'll start being a philosopher in the long run, right? So don't do that. That's point number one. Number two, characters with observational humor. Let me show my slide. And this is a small technique for you to remember how do you write a speech. Now, in a typical humorous speech, these can be 4 important components. The first one is called characters with observational humor. Now, what is this all about? How many of you believe? Now think of all those beautiful movies you watched in your life. All those beautiful movies. Do you remember the story easily, or do you remember the characters easily? Give me an answer in the chat. Do you remember the characters easily, or do you remember the story? Let's say you watched this movie called Bahubali. Let's say you watched this movie called Sholay. You watched this movie called any Rajinikanth movie, right? So we usually tend to remember the characters for a longer time than the story in entirety, right? Let's say if I say Sholay, Gabbar Singh comes into your mind. Kitne aadmi the strikes your mind, right? If you think of Bahubali, why Kattappa killed Bahubali, or Kattappa or Bahubali, or all those characters usually come into your mind. So usually, if you think of all those beautiful movies that you've watched in your life, you tend to remember the characters for a longer time. Same case is with speeches as well. If you really want your audience to remember your speech for a longer time, you need to create some very beautiful characters in your speech that people should remember for a longer time, because they don't remember your story in entirety. They may remember certain key characters, how they behaved, how they spoke, how they modulated their voice, what did they drive, their behavior at various stages. This is what they remember, right? So have some characters with observational humor. Now, how do you create these characters? Go back to your life, revisit all your experiences in life. How many of you have seen weird people in life? Give me a quick yes. People with weird behavior, people with weird reactions to things. You would have seen, I mean, don't say I see people like that daily in life. Yeah, but you would have seen people, right? So let me give an example. So in my life, I had a weird character, and his name is Raja, right? Now, he was electrical gadgets teacher for us when we were, so I think way back in my 8th class or 9th class. So he has this problem. He used to spell the word switch as chuch. He had issues with accent. So instead of switch, he used to say chuch. He used to say there's a positive chuch, there is a negative chuch. When you connect these 2 chuches to a multi-vibrator, you get a big chuch, right? So that's a weird character in life. So his behavior was different. His voice was different. His accent was different, right? Similarly, if you go back to the first example, kiss competition, the teacher actually said kiss competition, but he actually meant quiz competition. He had an issue with accent. So he actually meant quiz, not kiss. He said kiss competition, right? So these are different characters in your life. Now you go back to your life, think of all those personalities who had different body language, who had different reactions to things, who had different voice modulation, who react to things differently. Now pick those qualities and design your characters accordingly, because your character should be key differentiator in your speech. How you design your characters matters a lot, right? So characters with observational humor is a key part, obviously, in your humorous speeches, right? So that's one part. Second is drama. Now, humorous, anything in life is humorous only if it has an element of drama in it, right? If there is no drama in your life, if there is no spice in your life, you just live. There's no drama in you, just live your life. That's it. But end of the day, before you die, if you really want to feel satisfied, or if you want to have a satisfied death, then you should have enough drama in your life. Now, drama doesn't mean anything serious. It also means on the lines of humor, right? So drama is all about multiple characters coming into play, a small story of sorts, these characters behaving in different ways, right? Different voice modulation, different behavior, right? So all these ingredients will build up the humor quotient in your speech. If there is nothing, if it's a plain story, all about you, yourself, your life, your wish, your success, your failure, then there is no spice in the speech, right? So pick one plot, any interesting plot in your life. Any point of embarrassment in your life, a point of big failure, a point of big success, anything, pick that part, have different characters, talk about that like a story, and that creates a drama, right? So go with a non-linear script in mind, but never go with the linear script, because if the script is linear, people will get bored, right? So drama is something that's important. And obviously emphasis and essence. Emphasis is all about spend a lot of time in planning on how do you think a character behaves, or how do you really want to make people laugh, right? Let's say if you're planning to act like your father, who is very serious, then you have to act serious on the stage. You should not say, my father is someone who is always serious. That doesn't work, right? Let's say you want to talk about your boss who is authoritative, then you have to act authoritative on the stage, like in the virtual stage, right? You don't say, my boss is someone who is really authoritative. That doesn't work, right? So you are playing something else, and you are talking about someone who is playing something else. That doesn't work. There should be an absolute sync between what are you expressing and who you are. As simple as that. If you are planning to talk about someone who is very serious, then you got to act serious, because you are that character for the audience. You may be talking about your father, your mother, your boss, anyone, but for the audience, you are all, as in you are playing the character of everyone. So you've got to live with all those shades, right? So ensure that when you write your humorous speech, you need to plan your characters well, have dramatic elements in your speech, because unless there is drama, you cannot have elements like voice modulation, behavior, reactions, and blah, blah, blah. Because if there's no scope for any of these things, then there is no humor at all, right? And then essence and emphasis is all about you playing the characters to perfection, right? Ensure that you emote their emotions perfectly and show them to the audience, right? So CODE, C-O-D-E, is an acronym for you to understand how do you write a humorous speech script and what can be some of the important aspects, right? Give me a quick smiley if this concept is clear, so that we'll move to the next important concept where we talk about where do we find stories of humor? How do we get that first idea of humor? All right. Now with that, the million-dollar question is, where do we pick stories from? Now, you can pick stories from 3 different areas. One is obviously the combination of societal violation and personal life. Now, how many of you have things that you absolutely hate in the society? Give me a quick yes. Anything. Is there anything that that you hate in the society? Give me a quick answer in the chat. What is that one thing that you hate, absolutely hate to the core in the society? When I say society, it can be anything. It can be people, it can be the governments, it can be anything, but don't bring in politics, of course, but anything that you hate, absolutely. Give me a quick yes in the chat. People littering around, okay, super. Hate. You hate, super, thank you. That's a good one. Double standards in society, all right. Any other perspective? Poking into others' businesses, yep, absolutely. Anything else that you absolutely hate? People's interference in your life, very nice. Yeah. Now all these topics, think about them. Unfairness, people's interference, gossips, poking into your business, double standard, littering around. How many of you have experienced all of these things or most of these things in your life? Give me a quick yes or a smiley. At least some of them in your life, right? Now these can be your topics, because point number 1, you absolutely hate them to the core. And secondly, you can laugh at them because it is not you, right? So anything that is a violation according to in the society can be a brilliant topic for humorous speech contest. I'll give you an example. Example number 1. The whole world is designed to depress all of us. The whole world is designed to depress all of us, right? Let's take an example. Let's talk about Fair and Lovely. Now, if you look at the advertisement of Fair and Lovely, they say, Fair and Lovely, you've got to use this cream. If you don't use this cream, you will never be able to crack interviews in your life. You will never be able to take a flight to other country. You will be hopeless in your life if you don't use Fair and Lovely. So start using Fair and Lovely, turn fair and win the world. So they're depressing you, or they're pushing into depression indirectly, right? Let's talk about iPhone. You need to buy iPhone, or you should have iPhone, because the current phone with you is of no use. iPhone is brand, iPhone is status. iPhone will bring you some respect in the society. So please buy iPhone. That way, if you look at any advertisement, including Tide, including Rin, Surf, they make you feel depressed because they make you feel that you are something that's there with you currently is of no use. And your life is miserable with it. So please start buying our product, right? So the world is made to depress you. Now, if you open Facebook and look at all those happy faces, 90% of them are pretending on Facebook. Their lives are actually not happy as they seem on Facebook, but you would get depressed looking at that. My life is not happy. Look at that guy. They're traveling to different countries after 6 months of marriage. Look at me. I'm sitting in my home. You get start depressed. If you open LinkedIn, every individual is posting about leadership. Now, leadership is a joke. Everyone is started talking about leadership, right? If you open LinkedIn and spend 30 minutes on LinkedIn, you will feel pathetic in life. People are progressing like anything and you are left behind, right? Now, anything in the world is there to depress you, right? So this is a point of humor. You can laugh at them, right? So that's one point. Second, your whole life is a joke. Your whole life is a joke. Now, if you observe, anything that comes into your life would eventually go off one day. Money, enter, exit. Your name, enter, exit. Your relationships, your job, your behavior, your perception, your reactions, anything that comes into your life will eventually go off one day. So people who call me funny today, once I die, they call me a body, right? So the point is, anything that comes in will eventually go off. So anything that's happening in between is a big joke. Nothing is permanent, right? So even death is humorous if you think about it. Even death is humorous if you think about it, right? So anything in life is humorous if you start moving away from your ideal zone of thinking and start to think, why is this happening? As simple as that, right? And one last example on this, which is happiness. Now, people talk a lot about being happy, staying happy, and all of that, right? Now, can someone tell me what is your definition of happiness in the chat? What do you think is happiness? Or what makes you happy? Being content, okay? Meeting expectations, all right? Peace with yourself, okay? Satisfaction. Fulfillment, all right? Happiness is a mindset, okay? Super, yeah. Of course, now there is a lot of literature in the society about being happy. Happiness is this, happiness is that, and blah, 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 right? Now, if you believe that earning money makes you happy, or if you have $1 billion with you that will make you happy, I'm sorry, it's a joke. Now go and interview someone who has actually $1 billion. He'll tell you the more money in life, the more troubles you welcome. So there is no happiness with money, right? Now, if you feel, if I get married in life, I'll stay very happy. Marriage is bliss. Now you actually go and talk to someone who got married for 25 years and tell me if they tell you that marriage is actually bliss or not. It's a joke again, right? Now talk to someone, or if you believe that a promotion will make me very happy, now talk to someone who actually got promoted. They'll tell you that the more promotions you have in life, the more baggage you carry with you, the more stress, the more BP, the more sugar, everything, right? Now, people's perception of happiness is a joke because there is nothing called happiness. You can never be happy in life unless you are happy with yourself. So again, this is a point of humor for you, right? Now, if you ask me, where do I pick humor from? There are no specific areas. Your entire life is a joke. You can pick humor from anything, anywhere, from any incident in your life, right? As I told you, societal violations, anything that's happening, anything that is bad according to you in the society, that can be a point of humor. Your success, your failure, your embarrassments, your greatest lessons in life, all these are humorous in nature. You can actually turn them more humor, right? And all your dreams are jokes, right? So as I told you, you can pick incidents from your personal life. You can pick anything from society that you absolutely hate. And then you can also pick, things from your personal life, or you can also imitate people, right? You can imitate your father, your mother, how they dealt with you. You can imitate people in the society, right? So all these areas can be brilliant topics, right? To give an example, for my humorous speech, I picked a topic on my school life, because in my school life, I've got to see different characters, weird behaving characters, right? But end of day, my message was, no matter who they are, no matter who you are, just enjoy your school life, because bygones are bygones. They will not come back again, right? So it's very simple. It's not preachy. It's very simple. Just enjoy your school life, right? That way you can also talk about the concept of happiness. Don't search for happiness out there. Happiness is always inside. Like it's an intrinsic subject, right? Just make it humor. Laugh at your life, laugh at your success, laugh at your failure. And then this is how you sort of ideating on the humor quotient. And this is where you sort of bring in humor into your speeches, right? So give me a quick smiley or yes if the concept of where do I get humor from is clear to all of you. All right, super. And yeah. Any questions so far? So I stop here for any questions on how do we write a humorous speech? Where do we pick the concept of humor from and all of that? Give me a quick no if you have no questions so that we'll move forward with the subject. If you have questions, you can unmute your microphone and shoot it. Or maybe let's take it towards the fag end. All right. Now that basically brings us to the last part, which is how do we create an effective drama? We spoke a lot about having a drama in our speeches, but the question is how do we do it? Something that's phenomenal in humorous speeches is body language and emotion sync. Like we've already covered this point, but again, now let's say you want to behave as someone who is an authoritarian or someone who is very demanding in nature, right? Then you've got to act like that. You should not say, you should act. Humorous speech is not about expressing, it is all about behaving on the stage, right? If you talk about international speech contest, it's all about expressing your thoughts because people are there to listen to your views and viewpoints. But humorous speech is a little sensitive in nature because a joke that got received well in Chennai may not be received well in Kolkata, or a joke that's a hit in Hyderabad can fall flat in Chennai. You never know. Humor is very sensitive in nature, right? So you've got to ensure that you act a lot to sort of bring those characters into play, right? So there should be perfect sync between the way you're behaving and the kind of emotion that you're trying to display. You are behaving funny on the stage and if your expressions are serious, then it's a joke again, right? People will start laughing at you, right? So ensure that there's a sync between body language and emotion. The second is harness the anticipation. Now, can someone tell me what makes your life interesting? If I ask you, is your life interesting? Your answer is obviously yes. But can someone tell me why is your life interesting? Okay, we have answers in the chat. Uncertainty, super. Challenges, all right. Okay, now let's say I take all of you to a fortune teller and the fortune teller gives you a long list of things that will happen in your life starting today till 10 years. Will you be happy? He'll give you everything, like he'll reveal everything that's going to happen in your life for the next 10 years. You have everything on your sheet. Will you be happy? No, you'll not be happy because you are enjoying this life because every second is mysterious. You don't know what's going to happen the next second. You're constantly exploring your life and that's making it mysterious, and then you're alert because you never know what's going to happen next. If you know everything that's going to happen, you are bindas. You don't worry about anything at all. The same goes with humorous speech contests as well. It's important for you to harness the anticipation in the minds of audience. You should make the audience wait for something to happen. Don't crack jokes just like that, right? So ensure that you build serious stories and then crack punchlines. So that gap is where people will wait for something to happen. Create that anticipation, right? I'll give an example. Now, when I was born, my parents took me to a fortune teller, and they said, we want to see how his life is going to be. So the fortune teller had a look at my hand, my palm, and then said, he has a hopeless future. This fellow is fit for nothing, right? Then, so he arranged a wooden plank. Like he asked my parents to arrange a wooden plank at home, place a pen, a book, and bindi on the plank. And he said, you place those three things and leave your baby a few yards away from the plank. If your baby crawls and places his hand first on the pen, he would turn into a writer. If he places his hand first on the bindi, he would turn into a preacher. If he places his hand first on the book or a knife, he would turn into a violent assassin. Then my parents were obviously excited, so they arranged a wooden plank. They placed, a pen, a knife, and bindi on the plank, and they left me a few yards away. So I started crawling slowly towards the plank, and and I could see 3 beautiful things on the plank. As I approached near, I slowly raised my hand. I slowly raised my hand up, 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 and up. And I pulled all the things at once. Now the fortune teller got shocked. He said this idiot would turn into a software engineer. He has no clarity in life. He'll do anything and everything, but he has no clarity in life. Right? Now, what happened with this storyline? In this storyline, the scenarios where I go to a fortune teller, the fortune teller looking at my hand, saying he has hopeless future, asking my parents to arrange a wooden plank, place 3 things, I crawling towards the plank, raising my hand. Till this point, it is all serious. So people were actually waiting for something to happen after the baby raised his hand. What will happen after this? What will happen after this? I pull things at once. What will happen after this? The fortune teller had was bemused. What will happen after this? Right? So all these elements of anticipation will further build up connections with the audience. They have to literally wait for something to happen. If you reveal everything at once, then it's a bland joke. It's a bland humor. People don't like you because it's done already, right? So it should be slowly revealing, and that way it will create a lot of fun, right? So you've got to also harness the anticipation, right? And I'll give you another example. Now, if you look at our own Toastmasters, there are many things that go bad in Toastmasters, right? Many things, right? Now, there are 3 instances in life where people talk really good things about you. 3 instances in life where people talk really good things about you. Astonishingly good things about you that at times you get surprised, right? 1, after you die. After your death, people will start talking so many good things about you. No matter how cunning you are, no matter how hopeless you are in life, when you're alive, people will obviously start throwing tantrums at you. But when you die, look at that scenario there. People always say, he's a good man. He always helped us. He has a good heart. It's so sad that he left us today. All good things only come after your death. Second, your last day at office. No matter how hopeless you are in office, no matter how bad you are in office, no matter how much of a pathetic worker you are, but on your last day of office, all those cunning colleagues will start talking good things about you. We miss him. He was so hardworking. He helped me so many times and blah, 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 blah. All good things come only at the last day of your office. And the third instance is Toastmasters introductions. Now, there are Toastmasters introductions where people talk astonishingly good things about you when they introduce you, that you don't feel, oh, really? Am I that great? No, you don't. Like, do I really have the potential? No, right? So they say you're this, you're that, you're a superhuman being, you're superior, you can do anything, you can do this, you can do that. We are all excited to listen to you. So please come in. But this is all, again, huge drama, right? So your Toastmasters introductions at times, not always, is also a joke, right? So what's happening here? Again, anticipation. When you say the same happens in Toastmasters as well, people wait for something to happen. So what's going to come up, right? So it's always important for a humorous speaker to make the audience wait for something to happen. So this is how we sort of build or harness the anticipation in the minds of audience. And that way you make them wait for something to happen, right? So these are some of the ways in which you can start building drama in your humorous speech, right? So we've covered 3 major points. One is, what is this humor all about? Humor is nothing but reality with a curlicue to its end. And then the moment you move away from your ideal zone of thinking, don't look at things the way they are, then humor takes its form, obviously. Third is, ensure that there is absolute body language sync, and your humor should be context driven, not a random exhibition of jokes. Build a story and then add humor elements to it. Spend a lot of time in crafting your characters, because people remember characters for a longer time, right? Make them behave weird, make them react weirdly to things, make them speak in different modulations, right? And then ensure that you drive your information clearly and impactfully to the audience. Because end of day, this is not about exhibiting random jokes. This is about you sharing message, but adding humor elements to it. Humor as a weapon to your information and making it more impactful. Right? So that's pretty much about the subjective analysis of what is humor in Toastmasters, and how do you go about writing a humorous speech script in Toastmasters, right? So that basically brings us to the end of this subjective analysis, and I now open the space for any questions that you may have. All right, so we have Thomas who says, building a story takes time. In its place, can I ask a question and create anticipation? Absolutely, Thomas. Now, again, asking a question is absolutely a very good way. To give you an example, now let's say you are bad at public speaking. You are bad at public speaking, right? So you want to inform the audience that all the negative things in your mind, like what will happen if I fall flat on stage? What if people laugh at me? What if I'm not able to drive my humor properly? All these thoughts are rubbish. This is just a play of imagination. You're only suffering your imagination. If this is my point, I can straight away ask a question and build anticipation. So what I will do is I'll ask the audience, how many of you are scared of death? Give me a quick yes in the chat. Now you can also give anyone. How many of you are scared of death? Oh, no one is scared of death. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Now, so there is this common notion that death is world's #1 fear, right? But unfortunately, death is not world's #1 fear. World's #1 fear is glossophobia. Glossophobia is fear of public speaking. That's world's #1 fear. And #2 fear is death, which means I would rather go and die than giving a speech in front of public, right? And then I'll tell them, did this happen with you as well? And they say, yes, thank you so much. And I'm here to break the myth of why public speaking is not, humorous public speaking is not rocket science. And then I will start building on my speech, right? So you can ask a question, you can wait for them to respond, you can give them a startling response, and then you can eventually build on your storyline. I hope I answered your question, Thomas. Yep. All right, any other questions do you have? Thank you. You can unmute your microphone and shoot, or you can also post your answers in the chat box, questions in the chat box on anything pertaining to humor or humorous speech into a small talk. How can you build confidence that people will laugh at your jokes? Okay, I'll just give you two aspects to this, right? One, off stage, as in during your preparation mode, you have to constantly think about yourself. How am I performing? How are my jokes? Do my jokes have quality? Do my jokes have potential? Will I be able to make people laugh? So all these thought process should happen before you take the stage. But the moment you take stage, public speaking is not about you. The moment you start speaking, it is not about you. It is about your audience. The moment you take the stage, and if you start thinking about yourself or the quality of your jokes or the quality of your humor or whether people are laughing at you, you are a gone case. You will fall flat on stage. Because I'm telling you, let's say you are cracking brilliant jokes, and if you randomly look at a person who is staring at you seriously with a mind, like with a face that is totally confused, you'll get confused, right? So there's a direct impact, there's a direct impact from the audience on the speaker, right? Two things. One, offline, as in off stage, constantly think about yourself. Don't think about audience. Don't only think about your perspective, your quality of jokes, your subject, your body language, your voice modulation, and all of that. But the moment you take stage, just crack. Whether they laugh, whether they don't laugh, it's none of your business. Don't take things to mind, because again, if you start taking things to your mind, when you're on stage, it will directly impact the quality of your speech, right? To give you one more insight, I believe most of you would have faced this problem. Let's say there's a wider audience, a wider audience, and you're cracking, or maybe you're delivering a humorous speech. Only one section of the audience is laughing at you or at your jokes. The other section is pretty serious or silent. Then you can comfortably ignore this section and focus only on that section. As simple as that. Because end of day, you are there to connect with the audience, and you cannot connect with 100% audience. As in, it's not practically possible for you to establish a connection with the audience in entirety. You cannot satisfy everybody. Not possible, right? So focus on those smaller sections in the audience who are actually laughing at your jokes or who are positively responding to your jokes. If none of them are responding, if you realize that you're looking like a fool on stage, go on. Act as if nothing happened. Just go on, conclude, and leave the stage. Because the moment you realize that you are a fool on the stage, you are gone. It plays against you, right? All right, I hope I answered your question, Uma Maheshwari.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question.
Sure, please go on. Yeah.
Hello, good evening. Especially for humorous content, especially for a girl, is there any gender bias kind of content is there? Personally, what I felt, creating humorous context for a male community, plenty of jokes are available. Like they can speak about their marriage life, they can speak about their love failure, they can speak about flirting a girl. But for a female, when we take all these things, it is like a societal restriction. And a drought of content for a female, the constraint level is very, very low for a female. And how a female can script out.
Okay, very good
because
question.
when I contest for division level, I found this out of 9 contestants, I was the only one female.
Okay.
So their context level is quite different from a female. And how can we come over this?
Very nice. Good question. Can I have your name? Kartika. All right. Now, there is this common notion, Kartika, that, the males can crack jokes on their job, their marital life, their life as a whole, blah, 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 blah. So your question is whether a female can also go the same line, right? Ideally, you should go the same line. You should break that barrier, in fact, right? So you use the word societal restrictions. So you should start laughing at those societal restrictions. So as I told you in my speech earlier, one humorous speech catchment area for you is societal violation. Wherever you see societal restrictions, start laughing at them. As simple as that, right? Because unless you start laughing at them, or unless you start laughing at your marital life, or maybe job or boss or whatever it is, you're not breaking that barrier. Unless you break that barrier, humor doesn't take its form. It has nothing to do with gender or bias, right? The gender bias has no space at all, because eventually you're laughing at everything. And I'll drive an important point here. You will be able to laugh effortlessly at things only if you are serious about them. If you are not serious about anything in life, you'll never be able to laugh at anything, right? So yes, there can be societal restrictions or biases, but you've got to start laughing at them. Yeah, I hope I answered the question. Super, thank you.
Yep.
Do we need, and can I address one last question? Do we need to give importance to setting up context or to the content of the speech? Just one pointer here, one last pointer. Typically in public speaking, the moment you take stage, when you start speaking, people will start creating an active interpretation on your personality in the first 1 minute of your presentation. Typically 30 seconds to 1 minute, right? Because that 1 minute time frame is a time where you establish connections with the audience, because that is when they will start interpreting your personality. If you are able to connect with them in that first 1 minute, you're good to go. You'll be able to control your audience. But if you're not able to connect with them in that first 1 minute, no matter how good your speech is, it becomes a little difficult for you to pull their attention back on track. So if you look at TED speakers, if you look at business leaders in various speaking forums, they usually spend the first 30 seconds to 1 minute either in asking questions or building a story or sharing facts or statistics or whatever it is, till they start getting to their actual story, right? Because this first 1 minute is for you to play with the mindset of audience. You've got to connect with them first and then start building the story. It's like you are preparing your audience to listen to you. That should be the core intent. And obviously, yes, you have to place a lot of significance on the context and then eventually on the content. Yeah. Do we have time to take one more question?
Yeah, I think we are running over time. So in the interest of time, definitely, I've been seeing that there are a lot of questions are coming in. You can send it through offline, email, phone. You can utilize that out. Thank you so much, Fanny. So this is the kind of questions what been coming in. I really enjoyed at the same time. That is what we've been seeing that comments as well. Thanks for taking time to come in. Okay,
thank you so much. Thoroughly enjoyed. Thank you so much for your participation. Thanks.